The cold air from the central AC couldn't cool down the work atmosphere on the top floor of Jeon Dominion Group, a giant property corporation known for its rigid structure and near-flawless discipline. From where she sat, Yin could hear the fast, rhythmic tapping of a keyboard coming from the CEO's office, a familiar melody that signaled Jungkook, her boss, was deeply immersed in his work. A 28-year-old perfectionist whose cold reputation towered as high as the company's skyscraper itself. Yin had occupied the position of personal secretary for a full year now, a year filled with discipline, but also a strangely comfortable silence. She neatly arranged stacks of documents related to a resort development project on Jeju Island. Her slender fingers moved efficiently, sorting through financial reports while occasionally glancing at the clock. 4 in the afternoon, it was time for Jungkook's third coffee. Not just any coffee, but a special brew made from Ethiopian beans with a touch of almond cream, exactly the way Jungkook liked it, something only Yin knew. She stood up, picked up a matte black ceramic mug, a gift from Yin, bought during a spring vacation, and headed toward the executive pantry. When she returned, she knocked on the mahogany door using a pattern she had memorized by heart. 2 soft knocks, a brief pause, then one final knock. "Come in." The baritone voice sounded deep, slightly hoarse. Yin pushed the door open. The room was dominated by masculine tones and natural light pouring in through floor-to-ceiling glass windows, revealing a stunning city skyline. Jungkook sat behind his large desk, looking exhausted, yet his focus remained unbroken. "Your third coffee, sir," Yin said gently as she placed the mug beside Jungkook's laptop. "I also brought some honey rice cakes that just arrived from your favorite shop." Jungkook looked up. His sharp eyes, usually radiating an icy aura, softened slightly when they met Yin's gaze, a contrast that always made Yin feel special for no logical reason. "Thank you, Yin," he replied after a brief pause. "You always know what I need." "It's my job, sir. And maybe," Yin added, placing a bottle of vitamin C beside the coffee. "You missed your afternoon vitamins. Your schedule is extremely tight, and tonight's meeting with Mr. Kim from Daesung Group will likely go on late." Jungkook took the tablet, shook his head slightly, and smiled faintly, a smile he rarely showed anyone in this company. "You're more like my personal nurse than my secretary, but I appreciate your concern." "I'm just making sure the company's most valuable asset keeps functioning at its best, sir," Yin replied. Warmth spread through her chest at the hint of softness between them. "By the way, the reports are ready," Jungkook said, slipping back into professional mode. "Make sure everything is archived under security code Z4. Only you and I are allowed access." "Understood. Is there anything else I should take care of before clocking out, sir?" "No, you can leave on time today. You've worked hard. I'll finish a few things here on my own." Yin nodded. She knew few things meant Jungkook would stay until midnight, a habit that had become increasingly frequent over the past 2 months. "All right, sir. I'll take my leave then," Yin said before stepping out of the office and returning to her desk. Over the past few weeks, Jungkook had indeed been spending more nights alone at the office, or even outside the office, but not for meetings or official company events. His personal schedule was filled with unscheduled agendas, and Yin, who was responsible for every piece of paper and every appointment, had begun to sense a secret. She was curious, but of course, too hesitant to ask. Silently, she only hoped it wasn't her boss's dating schedule, because if she was being honest, she had already fallen in love with him in silence. It might seem unprofessional, but she couldn't command her heart to choose whom it should or shouldn't love. After all, Yin couldn't deny it. Jungkook treated her differently from other employees. His usually sharp, intimidating gaze softened when it landed on her. Yin noticed that. His cold, authoritative voice became gentler whenever he spoke to her. Mistakes that would normally provoke his anger turned into mild warnings when she was the one who made them. With all of that, it was impossible for her not to feel more special than anyone else in this company. A few days later. That night, the clock had already struck 8. The entire executive floor was empty, with only the lights in Jungkook's office and Yin's desk still on. Jungkook was out on an urgent personal matter, which, as usual, he hadn't explained. Yin decided to tidy up the scattered files on his desk after placing several monthly company reports that Jungkook needed to review the next day. Among the thick investment proposals and signed contracts lay a brown manila envelope without the company's official seal. It was a funding proposal. At first, Yin intended to put it back in the secure place she knew, but her gaze froze on the neat handwriting at the corner of the envelope, Hope Star Foundation Project. Curiosity mixed with unease pushed her forward. She carefully opened the envelope. Inside were detailed documents outlining a secret fundraising initiative. The project was a charitable foundation aimed at helping underprivileged children suffering from cancer. The description was deeply moving, written in a tone far removed from the cold, business-like language she usually found in Jungkook's documents. Yin stood frozen. She remembered that Jungkook was known for working non-stop, but she had never heard of the CEO being involved in such a large-scale charity project without using the company's name. This was clearly a personal project, one that wasn't recorded in the official books. Jungkook's exhausted appearance over the past few weeks suddenly made sense. He wasn't spending his nights having fun or going on dates, as she had feared, but building this Hope Star Foundation. A wave of deep sympathy washed over Yin. Jungkook must care immensely about this project, enough to sacrifice his already packed schedule for it. Yet what made her curious, and slightly uneasy, was why it was being kept secret from everyone. Her thoughts quickly shifted to one thing. Jungkook's workload must have doubled, and a charity project like this required detailed administrative support, something Yin excelled at. Of course, she could help without violating confidentiality. In the end, Yin returned to her desk. Tonight, she decided to wait for Jungkook. She truly felt she couldn't leave him alone. 1 hour later, when Jungkook returned around 9 p.m., his expression looked tense and exhausted. He let out a tired breath and dropped into his office chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Yin stood at the doorway, her heart pounding with nervousness. She had to be careful. "Mr. Jungkook," Yin called softly. Jungkook opened his eyes and looked at her, fatigue evident in his gaze. "What is it, Yin? I thought you'd already gone home." "I was just organizing your desk. I need to be honest, sir. I saw something personal." Yin stepped forward slowly, maintaining a respectful distance in front of his desk. The Hope Star Foundation project documents. In an instant, the atmosphere in the room shifted. Where there had only been exhaustion before, the air was now filled with a sharp, suffocating tension. Jungkook's eyes changed immediately. The softness he sometimes showed Yin vanished without a trace, replaced by a hard, piercing stare, far more intimidating than anything Yin had ever seen when Jungkook reprimanded a failed manager. "You saw it?" Jungkook's voice was low, but it sounded like a restrained growl. "Yes, and I understand how important and confidential this project is to you," Yin continued carefully, trying to show her good intentions. "I see how hard you've been working, sir. Why not let me help? I can handle the administrative side, arrange fundraising schedules outside the company, and handle every time-consuming detail. I'll keep it strictly confidential, I promise." Yin hoped to see relief, or at least a nod of approval. Instead, what she received was pure anger, erupting without warning. Jungkook shoved his chair back with a sharp screech and stood up, both fists planted on the desk. He no longer looked tired. He looked dangerous. "Who gave you permission to cross the line, Yin?" he snapped, his voice booming through the silent room. Yin flinched, startled by the intensity of his rage. "I just wanted to help, sir. I was worried seeing how exhausted you are." "Exhausted? That's none of your business." Jungkook cut in, stepping forward until he stood across the desk from Yin, glaring at her as if she were an enemy. "That project is extremely personal. It's an area you are not allowed to touch." Yin's breath caught in her throat. Her eyes began to burn, confused and hurt by how cruelly her good intentions were being twisted. "I never meant to interfere. I just know that the Hope Star Foundation project is meaningful, sir. I understand you must have a strong reason for keeping it secret. I was only offering my expertise." Jungkook shook his head sharply, as if Yin had just told a blatant lie. His face was filled with a chilling disappointment. "This isn't about expertise. It's about boundaries. All this time, did you think you were special just because I let you remind me to take my vitamins?" He let out a bitter laugh, the sound piercing Yin's ears. "You thought you could use my personal information for whatever purpose that is. Loyalty? I don't need loyalty built on confidential information." His words struck like physical blows. Yin felt her heart shatter, not because she was being scolded, but because of the malicious intent he accused her of. "Sir, I never once thought of taking advantage of you. I genuinely care." "Care?" Jungkook interrupted. "Your job is to keep my schedule running smoothly and screen my calls. You don't need to know anything about my personal affairs," he said, each syllable delivered with deadly firmness. His eyes held no emotion as they locked onto her. "You're just a secretary, Yin. You're not special, and I can replace you in a second if you start meddling in things that aren't your concern." That sentence was the final blow. It shattered the unspoken sense of specialness Yin had held onto for an entire year. Yin's face instantly went pale. Her deep sensitivity felt like an open wound doused in salt. The words "not special" and "I can replace you" echoed in her head, drowning out every good reason she had ever believed in. Yin took a breath and straightened her posture, which had slightly bowed from respect before. She forced the surge of emotion and disappointment back inside, building a steel wall around her heart in an instant. She gave a short nod. Her face was now blank, her professionalism returning in its coldest form. I understand, sir. I apologize for crossing the line. I promise it won't happen again. Without waiting for Jungkook's response, Yin turned and walked out of the room. Her steps were measured, as if she had just completed the most routine administrative task, composed on the outside, even though her heart was now shattered into pieces. As she sat back down at her desk, she fought hard to keep her tears from falling, her eyes burning intensely. She stared at her computer screen, biting her lower lip to suppress her emotions. That night, she decided that Yin, the efficient, attentive secretary, had died. What remained was only a highly professional robot who would never again dare to offer personal warmth to that cold CEO. That night, she disabled the vitamin reminders, canceled orders for Jungkook's favorite snacks, and deleted every personal note she had ever kept about her boss's habits. From that moment on, Yin replied only with yes, no, or I'll take care of it. Yin and Jungkook worked side by side in a tense, suffocating silence. Inside his office, Jungkook stood motionless in front of his desk. His earlier fury had begun to fade, replaced by a faint sense of regret. He knew Yin had meant well, and he knew he had overreacted. But the old trauma he had tried so hard to suppress had completely overwhelmed him that night. He had become defensive, perceiving every touch on the Hope Star Foundation project as an attack. He let out a long breath and rubbed his exhausted face. At the very least, he had made sure Yin would no longer try to interfere in this matter. He would have to handle the Hope Star Foundation project alone. What he didn't know was that far beyond the reach of his office, there were other eyes already watching the project, eyes filled with hatred and jealousy, and the destruction he was trying to avoid would come from outside his office walls. 1 week later. One morning, about a week after the confrontation, Yin saw a major headline splashed across her laptop screen. The title made her blood seem to freeze, and she instinctively grabbed her phone to block all incoming calls to Jungkook's office. The news wasn't about their company's property investments. It was a massive story, like a storm tearing open an old wound belonging to their CEO, Jungkook. Scandal rocks leading property CEO of Jeon Dominion Group, secret charity project exposes the tragic death of his younger sister, a story deliberately buried for years. Yin's eyes narrowed. What was really going on? She couldn't stop herself from reading the article. As she did, her eyes widened, and her hand flew to cover her mouth in shock at the painful story from her CEO's past. When she finished reading, her gaze immediately shifted to the now closed door of the CEO's office. Jungkook must have already seen it. Yin knew this was the moment everything would fall apart. Trembling, Yin watched as Jungkook stepped out of his office, his face completely shattered, his eyes filled with panic and deep pain. Moments later, he went back inside and slammed the wooden door shut, plunging his office into darkness. Inside, Jungkook collapsed into his chair, his breathing ragged. Alex, his cousin who had always competed with him and harbored deep jealousy, must have found his way in. Only his extended family knew the precise details of this trauma. The trauma surrounding Yoonji, his younger sister, had now been exposed to the public, and Alex was the only one he suspected, the same person who had tried time and time again to destroy him and always failed. This time, however, it seemed he had succeeded, because for the first time, Jungkook truly felt broken. Yin, now knowing the story about Jungkook's younger sister, who had suffered from cancer and later died in a car accident, finally understood why Jungkook's words had been so cruel that night. It wasn't because he wanted to hurt Yin. He was only trying to protect the wounds of his past. The steel wall she had built a week ago began to crack. Yin's hurt feelings faded instantly, replaced by deep concern. She no longer cared about her pride. She had to see how Jungkook was doing right now. Yin stood up, approached the door to Jungkook's office, and knocked carefully. Come in, Jungkook's voice replied, hoarse. When Yin opened the door, the sight before her pierced her heart. Jungkook was leaning back against his chair, his eyes closed. He looked so weak, and Yin could clearly see the damp traces of tears that hadn't yet dried on the cheeks of the CEO, who always seemed untouchable. Mr. Jungkook, Yin began very carefully, her voice filled with pure empathy. Are you okay? Jungkook slowly opened his eyes. They were red. He immediately stood up and turned away, not looking at Yin. Instead, he walked toward the window, staring down at the city skyline below. He looked as if he might collapse at any moment. No, Yin, I'm not okay. His voice was rough as he fought desperately to keep his tears from breaking in front of her. You know what they wrote. They exposed everything. Yin swallowed and chose to remain silent, letting Jungkook speak. I was 21 back then. She was 15. She had leukemia. Jungkook began, his voice trembling violently. She wanted ice cream that night. I took her. I was the one driving, taking her to her favorite ice cream place. Jungkook finally turned around, looking at Yin with eyes full of anguish. But it wasn't the leukemia that killed her. I did. The car accident. I survived. But he couldn't finish the sentence. 7 years of guilt spilled out all at once. Seeing that unexpected fragility, all the shouting and cold words Yin had ever heard from Jungkook suddenly felt meaningless. She stepped forward, no longer thinking about professional boundaries. She didn't ask questions, didn't speak. She simply moved closer, her hand lifting to rest gently on Jungkook's shoulder in a calming touch. Mr. Jungkook, it wasn't your fault. It was an accident. No one wanted it to happen, least of all you, Yin whispered, trying to give Jungkook strength, or at least ease his guilt, even just a little. However, that touch seemed to shatter Jungkook's last line of defense. Without warning, he turned to face her, and before Yin could react, his strong arms were already wrapped around her. Jungkook held her tightly, so tightly, as if Yin were the only anchor left in the middle of the storm. Yin was startled, but within a second, she returned the embrace. She let the warmth of her body soothe the fragile man in her arms. They stayed that way for quite some time, locked in a silence heavy with Jungkook's grief, until suddenly, a click echoed from the office door. The door opened, and they both instinctively released the embrace, turning toward the sound, their faces filled with shock. Standing in the doorway was a middle-aged couple, their expressions mirroring the same astonishment. It was Mr. and Mrs. Jeon, Jungkook's parents. Yin's face instantly flushed with embarrassment and shock. She immediately bowed deeply to Jungkook's parents. Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Jeon. Please excuse me, Yin said, her voice trembling, before hurrying out of the room, leaving Jungkook and his parents standing there in stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. The silence along the executive floor corridor felt like a vacuum Yin had just created herself. She walked away from the door, letting her body move on autopilot, her face frozen into a nearly perfect mask of efficiency. But inside her chest, her heart was pounding like a wildly beaten drum. She had been brave. She had crossed the most sacred boundary, not just once, but twice in a single week. The first time because she cared, the second because she couldn't bear to watch that man fall apart. And the result, she had been caught red-handed in an intimate embrace by Jungkook's parents, utterly mortifying. When she reached her desk, Yin forced herself to sit down. Her fingers rested on the computer keyboard, ready to continue the urgent crisis management work ahead, but her mind kept replaying that moment. The warmth of Jungkook's embrace, the weight of his body leaning on hers, and the shocked expressions on Mr. and Mrs. Jeon as they stared at the two of them. The wooden door finally closed again, leaving Jungkook and his parents inside the room, which was still heavy with emotions that hadn't fully settled. The silence lasted only a few seconds before a light yet meaningful voice broke it. Jungkook's father cleared his throat softly, the corner of his lips lifting slightly. We came here in a hurry because we were worried. The news about Yoonji, we were afraid it might reopen your old wounds. He glanced at the door that had just closed, then looked back at his son with a gaze that was slightly teasing. But it seems our worries were unnecessary. You look perfectly fine in the arms of that beautiful secretary of yours. Jungkook's pale face instantly flushed red all the way to his ears. Dad, he said shortly, clearly unprepared for the teasing. His mother smiled softly, though her eyes held the tenderness of a mother who truly understood. She stepped closer, looking at Jungkook seriously. Jungkook, are you really okay? We came straight here because we were worried you might be facing this alone. Jungkook's smile faded. He took a deep breath, then nodded slowly. I lost control for a moment, but I'm calmer now. Thanks to Yin, he admitted honestly, avoiding his parents' eyes and choosing to stare out the window to hide his nervousness. His parents exchanged a brief look, and the atmosphere turned more serious. That news couldn't have leaked on its own, his father said firmly. Someone deliberately brought up the past to destroy you. Jungkook clenched his fists, his jaw tightened. I'm sure it was Alex, he said without hesitation. No one else knows those details except our extended family, and there's no one in this world who wants to ruin me more than him. His mother let out a quiet sigh, her gaze hardening with restrained anger. He's never stopped being jealous of you, she said, and this time, he chose the cruelest way. We won't stay silent, Jungkook's father continued. If he started this war, then we'll finish it, cleanly, but firmly. Jungkook nodded. For the first time since the news broke, A fire of determination burned in his eyes. "I won't let him drag Yoonji's name any further," he said softly but with conviction. Sometime later, after an initial plan was formed and emotions had settled a little, Jungkook's parents prepared to leave. But just before stepping out, his mother turned back again, a warm yet teasing smile on her face. "By the way, Jungkook," she said lightly, "if you truly love your secretary, you should get married soon, rather than secretly hugging in the office." His father chuckled in agreement. "That means you really do need someone to calm you down, and it seems you've already found her." Jungkook's face flushed again, even more this time, but he didn't deny it. Not a single word of protest left his lips. His mother smiled in satisfaction at his reaction, then they walked out of the room. As they passed the secretary's desk, Mrs. Jeon paused. She looked at Yin, who sat stiffly yet professionally behind her desk. With the warm smile of a mother, she spoke softly but sincerely. "Thank you for taking care of Jungkook." Yin fell silent for a moment, then bowed politely, her chest warming at those simple words that somehow felt more meaningful than anything else that had happened that day. Not long after, the intercom on the secretary's desk suddenly rang, breaking the lingering awkward silence left by Mr. and Mrs. Jeon's departure. "Yin, come into my office." Jungkook's voice sounded calm, and that was exactly what made Yin's heart pound harder. Her fingers reflexively gripped the edge of the desk. Her breath felt shallow. After everything that had happened today, she had no idea what kind of conversation awaited her. "Yes, sir," she replied, trying to keep her tone professional. She stood up, straightened her blouse, though it was already neat, and walked toward the CEO's office door. Each step felt heavy, as if the hallway stretched endlessly. Yin knocked softly before opening the door. Jungkook stood with his back to the desk, gazing out the window. Daylight wrapped around his silhouette, making him look calm yet fragile at the same time. When he heard the door close, he turned around. "Sit down," he said briefly. Yin obeyed, taking a seat on the chair across from Jungkook's desk. Her hands were folded neatly on her lap, though she could feel a faint tremor at her fingertips. Several seconds passed in silence. "I called you in," Jungkook finally spoke, "because I owe you an apology." Those words made Yin look at him directly, surprised. "What I said a few days ago." Jungkook took a deep breath, clearly choosing his words carefully. "About you not being special. About how I could replace you anytime. I shouldn't have said that." Jungkook's jaw tightened, his eyes fixed straight on Yin. "I was angry, scared, and out of control, but that's no excuse for hurting you." Yin swallowed. Her chest felt tight, not from pain, but from the honesty finally laid bare before her. "The truth is," Jungkook continued softly, "from the very beginning, you were different." He walked closer slowly, stopping beside the desk. "I've never been able to see you the same way as other employees. The way you work, the way you care, the way you're there, even when I push you away." His voice lowered. "I realized it a long time ago. I just refused to admit it." Beneath her calm exterior, Yin felt her heart tremble violently. She lowered her gaze for a moment, then gave a small nod. Truthfully, she had felt it too. Silence fell again, but this time, it no longer hurt. Jungkook exhaled, then lifted his face, his gaze steady. "Yin," he said softly yet firmly, "I won't pretend this is about love." Those words made Yin freeze, but she didn't look away. "I'm not a man who's good at loving," Jungkook continued. "I'm broken. I carry too many burdens and wounds I've tried to bury deep. But today, I realized something. I need you by my side." He paused, then spoke with raw, unadorned honesty. "Yin, marry me." Time seemed to stop. "Today, for a moment, I felt completely alone," he added, "and that was when I realized even more clearly that I can't stand without you. I want you by my side, not as my secretary, but as my wife." Yin fell silent for a few seconds. Strangely, her heart felt calm. There was no shock, no doubt. All the feelings she had buried for so long finally found their place. She smiled softly, her eyes glistening with tears. "Sir," she said gently, "whether you feel broken or not, I'll do my best to help you heal again. I can't bear to see you hurt like this." She lifted her face, looking at Jungkook with the courage she had always kept hidden. "Because I've loved you for a long time." Without thinking any longer, Yin nodded. "I accept your proposal." For the first time that day, Jungkook smiled, not the controlled, restrained smile he often wore, but an honest smile born from relief. And in that room, between the daylight and the lingering wounds of the past, a new bond was formed. A week after they officially started dating, the office that night felt warm, even though the soft white light only illuminated Jungkook's desk. Jungkook was still buried in a stack of Hope Star Foundation documents, looking serious as he reviewed reports and organized fundraising schedules. The late-night overtime clock showed 8 o'clock, yet his eyes remained focused, fingers dancing across the laptop keyboard. The office door opened slowly. Yin no longer knocked. In her hands, she carried a small tray with Jungkook's favorite coffee and some snacks. She walked steadily, a slight smile on her face. "Mr. Jungkook, I brought you coffee and some snacks," she said softly, her voice still professional, though her eyes radiated warmth. Jungkook turned, and his usually cold eyes now glowed gently. A faint smile spread across his face. "Yin, I've told you many times, stop calling me Mr. Jungkook when it's just the two of us," he said casually, his gaze warm as he looked at her. Yin simply smiled, her steps light, as she circled the CEO's large desk. She stood beside Jungkook, set down the tray, and looked at the foundation's documents carefully. "I think the fundraising section in this district could be more effective if we add a weekly digital campaign plan," Yin suggested, pointing to a table on the laptop screen. Jungkook nodded, considering her suggestion seriously. "Agreed, that would be more efficient. You always have the right opinion, Yin." He leaned back comfortably on his chair, glancing at the screen and occasionally at Yin. "Work feels so much easier now that you're by my side, helping organize everything." Yin stepped closer, her hands gently massaging Jungkook's shoulders. "Even so, Jungkook, you still have to take care of your health. Health is your greatest asset, remember that." Jungkook smiled, his right hand holding hers as she massaged his shoulders, then gently pulled her hand toward him and kissed it softly several times, making Yin chuckle lightly. But Jungkook drew Yin even closer until she was sitting sideways on his lap. He looked at her with a gaze both tender and firm. "I'm not afraid of getting sick anymore, because I know you'll take care of me," he said. Yin blushed, patting his shoulder lightly as she teased. "Still, you're not allowed to get sick, okay?" Jungkook replied with a warm smile, leaning down to press his lips against hers in a long, gentle kiss. His right hand cradled Yin's face attentively, while his left arm hugged her waist. "Thank you, baby, for staying by my side all this time," he whispered between kisses, his voice low and warm. Yin gazed into Jungkook's eyes, her heart melting at the sincerity she saw there. Without more words, they stayed in silence, simply feeling each other's warmth, within a room of soft lighting, neatly arranged documents, and a nighttime stillness that now felt sweet, intimate, and safe.